If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. For one, it's free. Two, there are a bunch of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Not only that, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more places. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's really everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
How's it going, lovebirds? You are now listening to the podcast that brings you real relationship advice from real relationship experiences. I'm your host, Derek Brown Jr., and on today's episode, season number 2, episode 6, we are talking about how to approach parenting as a single father. And for my guest today, I have Garrett Glaser. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well, man. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, man. I've been trying to book you for like a year now.
It's been a long time. We had this conversation sitting down, and you weren't even living in the house that you're living in now. So definitely been a while. I'm really happy we're here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have you on. And if you don't mind, can you share with the lovebirds a little bit about yourself, what you got going on? I know you're working on something crazy with restaurants, you know.
Yeah, so right now I do have a full-time day job. I work at Royal Neighbors of America. Good spot to work, not stable. It's for sure income, you know. So as a father, that's something you need, benefits and all that stuff. So I'm working on that. But also I got a little something in the works. I do some bartending and serving on the side, and from that I've noticed some holes and efficiencies in restaurants and stuff, and I'm working on a little app to fill in those holes, those gaps and efficiencies, right? So, yeah, I got some stuff going on the side, some dreams that I'm trying to work on, you know?
Okay, yeah, no, I like the idea a lot. I know you don't want to share too much because we got some people out there that would, steal the idea, no?
You can't sign a non-disclosure over audio.
Right. But as we always do, I'm going to go straight to the questions. Question number 1. What has been your approach to parenting as a single father?
Like for me, people are the nature versus nurture argument like comes into play, and I'm definitely, I feel like I'm a balance of like both, because I'll nurture him when like he's in pain or like sad or upset about something like legitimate, you know? So for me, my approach is like I need to let certain things happen. Like as an example, I actually heard about this. I was listening to a different podcast, and I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about how he went about parenting a little bit. Okay, so he's a little like radical for some people, and that's fine. It's Joe Rogan and Neil deGrasse Tyson, super popular podcast, you know. So I was listening to that, and he let his kid, because he had observed him grabbing eggs out of the fridge, and he kept telling him not to do it, and we would go grab the egg out of his hand. But one day, he just let him keep carrying the egg, and he walked and he dropped the egg on a hard floor, and it broke. And as a young kid, you don't know that that's what the egg's gonna do. It happened. It's a little mess to clean up, but like now they know. So it's a little bit for me the same as where I'm gonna let him have these experiences. You have to learn from like certain things, you know. So until you experience certain things, you don't know that like that can be the outcome for yourself or those around you. So I kind of let some things happen to an extent. For me personally, an example like the egg, dropping the egg and knowing that's gonna happen. He wanted to, Griffin is my son's name. He's 3 years old. He's gonna be 4 at the end of this month. So super excited. He likes to jump on beds and couches, as a lot of kids do, right? So one day he was on the couch jumping up and down, and he wanted to jump off of the couch, not just on it. So he did it once, and I was like, Griffin, please don't do that. You're gonna hurt yourself. At least like put some cushions down. Well, he did it one more time, jumped off, and he was hurt. okay, so that's where the nurture comes in, because like he is in actual pain,
Right.
But then that's when you explain, hey buddy, remember when I asked you, to put some cushions down, like at least like maybe a throw pillow or two, just so you have a small like landing zone that you might be able to hit. The bigger the better. And he learned that way. So he was crying. I picked him up, but you'd explain to him then, like, you remember that? Yeah, Dad, I do remember that. And he's really receptive to that. Sometimes I ask for, hey, Griffin, is like when maybe he's upset about something, an interaction with another child maybe where he's not sharing something, or he's being kind of, there are socialization is really important, so you want to make sure he's doing it correctly and not being like stingy or doing or saying things to anybody that is going to hurt them or even himself, right? So I try to just make sure that that he knows the right way to interact with people. There are certain times that you don't need to be saying certain things that we may say back and forth, like amongst ourselves when we're at home. There, like, he's really obsessed with boys, like it's a little weird subject, but he's a little boy, and like poop and like farts like fascinate him, like just bodily functions like are so fascinating because they're ew, gross, and boys like that. Like, he's definitely a boy. Like, he'll run around in the dirt, get super dirty, come in with the scrape on his knee, like, where did that come from, dude? Like, you got a new bruise today. I don't even know what happened. Like, you're just playing, so yeah, I just try to make sure he knows the proper way to like interact with people, so we can like say and do some things at home that aren't appropriate. Say if we're at the dinner table with someone, you can't be having like interactions with people, bringing up bodily functions, so it's kind of figuring out what we need to do and say to build like a strong foundation for even like a basic like acquaintance at this point. He's like, it's so crazy to me because it's all brand new. All these things are like so new to him, whereas we don't even think about this stuff, like talking to people and what we can and can't say and kind of like feeling out the situation. He doesn't know that stuff and can't pick up on social cues and all that, So I need to make sure, like, it's a massive responsibility.
On Taking Sides, the marriage podcast, listeners send in their relationship questions, disputes, and current disagreements. Hosts Dalen and Ashley Seeley, known as the Dashleys on Facebook and YouTube, then take sides and offer their opinion on the matter. The goal of this podcast is not to be divisive, but rather to learn to come together, gain tools for making a relationship work, and learn that the best side to take is the one you come up with together. If you would like to have your relationship questions answered, send your questions to takingsideswiththedashleys@gmail.com to hear your questions answered on the next episode of Taking Sides - the Marriage Podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Welcome back to the Good Relationships Podcast. I'm going to go right back into question number 2. And that is, what does co-parenting look like for you?
Well, for me, it's a little unique. Griffin's mother lives in Colorado, so she is 12 hours away from us, which means with her as the primary custodian, he's there most of the time. So as much as like communication is a large part of like a co-parenting relationship when y'all are in the same city, and in a lot of situations nowadays, I know it's different. Like most people, I talk to a lot of people where there's one parent or the other isn't in the picture for whatever reason, and I've seen both sides of the coin. Literally, like I have a friend whose kid's mother was unfit, and it was proven in court that he was a more appropriate full time custodian
yeah.
for this kid. And the same thing, obviously, with a lot of single mothers out there where their kid's father wants nothing to do with it at all. So communication is a large part of my co-parenting relationship. I try to stay in contact with her about stuff, and even sometimes I'm like making notes of certain things that might be like coming up for Griffin, so I can ask about him if I need to clarify anything, especially with Griffin starting school. That's changed the custodial agreement a little bit, which we're going to just need to revisit that, probably at some point, just amongst ourselves, just talk it out and be like, this is a school schedule. This is what his breaks are, and this is what, like, obviously holidays, you can switch off on holidays, like the important ones. I had him this Thanksgiving. She will have him for Christmas and his birthday, which is coincidentally the day after Christmas. Mm-hmm. And then I pick him up shortly after for New Year's. So it's important for us to communicate a lot. And then FaceTime is it's a great thing. But like, I know for me, like, my two primary love languages are quality time and physical touch. Now,
right.
Being 12 hours away from my son, like, ooh, like, that's hard. Like, because I don't, like, it's there, and, like, I love you, and I can see you, and, like, I want this time with you, so FaceTime has been super important. It's usually at least once a week. If we have time for more, sometimes it's more. But it's different because, like, I don't really, like, receive love that way. So I still, like, I love you. I'm just yearning more for it sometimes, to be completely honest with you. Like, so it can be kind of difficult sometimes, to be, like, feeling all that stuff that parents normally feel. I'm more just, like, I want that more because my primary love languages are that quality time that I do get to spend with him, which I cherish very much. I drove all the way to Colorado and back to go pick him up for this Thanksgiving, because his mother's plans didn't allow her to be able to drive to Grand Island, Nebraska, where we usually meet at, which is exactly halfway. So drove there and back, and actually did it the weekend after. He was here for 5 days, but I drove for 48 hours, so just about half as long as he was here, I was on the road going to get him. But it's just it is important for me, not only me, but, like, I have a whole family that showers him in love.
Right.
And that's, like, the key to all of it, is to, like, make sure these relationships are strong between him and his grandma and his cousin, Emma. They are, like, inseparable, and they could be twins. We've had questions all the time. My twin sister had a daughter, and her name is Emma Kay, and she and Griffin are just, like, attached at the hip. It's a really cool relationship to see. It resembles brother and sister very much, because of the way that they interact and sometimes make each other mad and stuff like that. So it's really interesting, and jealousy can be a factor because,
right.
like, I'm MK's Bubba, so she wants that affection from me too. And, like, come on, like,
right?
Come on, kids. Like, you wanna lay down and watch a movie? Like, sure, let's chill. Like, all that. So I have to give it to both of them, and that's important. But yeah, just the most important thing, it just comes down to, and that really applies to any relationship, but this one is just so much, like, more important in the grand scheme of things, just in my life specifically, from my experience, what my, like, reality is I'm a dad, like, first before anything, So it's making sure I'm in contact and trying to stay in the know about things. And it's things have been lost in translation a couple of times. I mean, in 3 years to have, like, some bumps in the road, it's going to happen anyways, where there's a miscue, where maybe she showed up to Nebraska, the weekend before he was supposed to be there, and she thought we had touched base, and she had like missed me for whatever reason, and she ended up there a week early, so we kind of finagled some things around, and ended up I still got my time with him and all that stuff. So yeah, just trying to maintain that contact, which can just be so difficult with two different schedules completely. I mean, we're even in two different time zones, so
right.
It's like, yeah, just to stay in contact and be really open about what's going on and stuff, you know?
I'm sure that can be, like, kind of exhausting, too, you know?
At times, just because, like, you know, you got the job, I live in my own home, like, that stuff doesn't take care of itself back there, you know? Like, if no one's doing my laundry, like...
Right.
I don't have clothes to wear, like, and I know nobody else is just gonna show up in my house and start doing my laundry for me. So, you know, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. So you have like real life stuff that takes place day to day, and then I have to remember like, yo, like, how long, like, and like I consciously like think about it every day, obviously, but at least every couple of days to try and touch base and be like, hey, like everything's good. Like, is anything, like, new school-wise or, like, extracurriculars now? We're getting into that. Like, part of the reason I drove all the way to Colorado to go get him was he had his last basketball game of the season. So I wanted to surprise him. So he didn't know I was going to be there. And I showed up. That was really, really cool for me and for him. A really good memory. So, yeah, like, things get... They can get very exhausting where, you know, you just have real life stuff, and sometimes you get so caught up where I just have a day where you're just busy, like, doing stuff until your head hits the pillow, you know? So, especially with, you know, everything I'm trying to get going in my professional life and stuff. So, yeah, definitely can get sort of exhausting, but it's worth it because... You see the smile on his face, you hear him laugh, you know. It's all these, like, positive experiences.
And you only get, like, so many years of them when they're younger like that. So.
Oh, it's so, like, pure and innocent and just kind of, you know, just where they can actually, like, still make up stories, like, off the top of their head about stuff, like, just on knowledge that they just take in day to day through like, play, because there's a lot of education through play with kids, you know, like 1 to 5, it's really easy to incorporate learning into something that feels like play. So, yeah, like all this knowledge, they're just so innocent and pure and stuff. And
speaking of knowledge, I know that you were telling me earlier about how not just techniques, but just like electronics. And so I was wondering, what does it look like as a father in 2019? And, you know, that what relationship does electronics play with your relationship with Griffin?
So for technology, my stance on it is, like, in my childhood and stuff, like, we were right in between, right? Like, technology started taking off. We get the internet, Y2K. Like, we survived Y2K. It was, like, a big deal, you know? Like, it's so funny. Like, we survived that. Apple became a thing and just started innovating, and everyone else had to, you know, catch up and compete, and now it just moves at a mile a minute. So it's different because we weren't exposed to that until, I mean, I don't know when you had your first cell phone. I think I was in, like, sixth grade, and I shared it with my sisters. Actually, my first cell phone.
I had the prepaid joint. It was
same,
great.
Exactly. And I had to share it with my 2 sisters, so we had to, you know, like, earn minutes on the phone, you know. Yeah. But him, like, technology is such an integral part of everyday life already, so he's going to need to know how to use it. I personally, like, I don't know when exactly she started using it, but it's the way that we're, like, implementing technology. I think some of the kids that are right now, like, in their teen years, a lot of them grew up and Facebook was a thing, so the socialization, like, is different. Like, their social interactions are so different, And you can tell when someone's like a little bit younger than you. I mean, I'm going to be 27 next year. So I can sit here, I mean, like, and we're just talking, you know. I can just have conversations like this off the top of the head. And, like, you either can't keep their attention because of the constant, like, stimulation that they get from, like, a Facebook notification or something like that, like instant gratification or whatever. So it's the way that things are being, like, implemented into, like, your life. So for Griffin, I allow him to use technology for certain things. There are a lot of, like, learning softwares and stuff and programs that you can download on, like, iPads and stuff. And that's the only stuff that's on there for him, is, like, things that he can learn with. But it is a legitimate learning tool. Like, letter identification, like, count, anything. Like, elementary, like, pre-K all the way up, and really early childhood education. And it's kind of important sometimes to do that, because, like, I can put him on an iPad for a learning app, right, and go take a shower, because that's going to keep his attention and be like, hey, yo, stay here. You're going to do some learning. I'm going to go shower really fast. And then 5-minute shower, whatever. You know, just as fast as I can, shower, get back out, and make sure, like, he's all good. But usually when I hop out and get dressed a little bit, I just have him come in there so I can see him and make sure he's doing it while I finish getting ready and stuff. So it's something that is going to be in his life no matter what. He's going to have to know how to use certain things, and he's getting some of that. And that'll be a regular part of his education, because he'll just be provided certain things and devices and stuff in school as a learning tool. So if I'm utilizing it that way for now, until he can, you know, make his own Facebook account, or, you know, any social media interactions that he wants to have when he gets to that age, and then that's just the way that, like, they're gonna do those things, is through technology, then he can just use it at his own disposal. You know?
I mean, it's not going anywhere.
Exactly. And it's only gonna move forward. So,
yeah, I mean, you got 5G, everyone's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tesla.
All that stuff, man.
It'll be normalized, you know.
I mean, you even have, like, the like, what is that? Like, the Amazon Alexas with the screens. You could video chat your family from that, like, just making calls off of that stuff. It's like, you can already do that stuff. That's essentially, like, virtual reality, like, to some extent, right? Because it's through a screen, and, you know, you're in it, right? So
it's kind of weird to think about that stuff. I don't try to question it too much.
No,
but I'm like, it is kind of interesting to go from, I mean, just from our generation, because we, like you said, we grew into technology.
Yes, exactly.
So for us to notice, like, the change, like you
you're
said,
like, holy crap, that's massive. Like, dude, I remember we couldn't even. You gotta dial up internet, dog. Like,
I remember FaceTiming somebody for the first time. I'm like, whoa, like,
yes, dude, it's kind of crazy, right?
Like, that's crazy. But I mean,
like you said, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. The fact that we're recording right now, you know, but yeah. Anyways, question number 4. So I was asking you a little bit about techniques, and what did you mean by techniques, and what kind of techniques do you feel like it would be worth sharing with the lovebirds?
Well, like, I think I sort of described it already, where, you know, you have to let kids experience some things. You can guard them from, like, things that are really going to hurt them emotionally or physically, but don't. For me, it's not restricting too much. Like, there's a boundary. You're gonna know when you cross it, because, you know, it's gonna get serious. And that's when I ask him, it's like, we need to have a serious conversation.
Right.
Like, did you, example, right? He's playing with something, and then he goes to grab something, maybe even at a friend's house, and goes to grab something he's not supposed to grab. And I tell him no. And he walks away, and then he tries to go get it again. You know, after that, and then sometimes, like, temper tantrums still happen a little bit, you know. It's, like, so dramatic, you know, to tell me no and take something away from me that you had already told me no, like, 3 times about. That's when I, like, sit him down. I'm like, Griffin, we gotta sit down. You know, Daddy needs to talk to you. And then I ask him for eyes, and I start asking him questions about something that just happened, right?
Right.
All right, Griffin. So, why did Daddy tell you no? Like, okay, because it's your friend's pretties. That's what we call stuff that we're not supposed to touch. Pretties, right? It's all pretties, you know. Dad told you not to touch pretties, right? Yeah, Dad. Okay, and you kept going back to it, right? Yeah. Okay, so Dad raised your voice, and then you threw a temper tantrum. He's like, yeah, I did. And I was like, okay, so was that necessary? I don't think so. Okay, cool. Like, it's not letting the temper tantrum happen. It's when it gets to that point when you're like, okay, we're going to go into a quiet area where there is nobody, and we're just going to sit down and talk. You know, we're just going to sit and chat and be like, okay, this is how the situation happened. This was your reaction to it. And was that, like, necessary or valid? Like, having a full range of emotions is good. Mm-hmm. And you should do that, and your feelings are valid. But, like, what is the cause of those things? So, in a way, I don't want to say mental toughness, like, maybe, like, mental strength a little bit, like, because in my personal experience, like, life is a lot about, like, your mental strength, like, and health, and what do you do to make sure, like, your body's firing on all cylinders and your brain is functioning at the capacity you, like, need it to and stuff, you know? Like, what are those things? And then do those things that, like, make you happy and stuff. But as far as the full range of emotion goes, it's breaking down the whole situation and, like, okay, we're crying because you jumped off the couch and you didn't put any cushions down. Like I asked you to, right? Like, that's the example we talked about before. Yeah, so what are we going to do next time we want to jump off of something? Make sure there's something padded down. Okay, like, because if you're having a good time and you're not getting hurt, like, most of the time, I just started moving my bed out into the living room sometimes even. Right. Because, like, if you're jumping onto my bed, like, there's a huge landing zone and you're not going to get hurt. So, it's, like, finding little solutions like that, and it doesn't bother, like, I don't mind as much, and I talked to his mom a little bit about it, because he, like, that's when, like, the co-parenting comes into play, and the parenting techniques differ.
Yeah, that was my next question.
So, sorry.
The difference is, like...
Okay, so the difference is, and that's where, like, the communication comes into play, because one thing that I could say is we were trying to wean him off of a pacifier, and he was just getting bottles. And then at night, like, I just cut him off cold turkey. Like, there were some tears, but, like, I know how to, you know, soothe and nurture and stuff, and put him back in bed. And he'll sleep. He eventually was sleeping through the night with no pacifier, wasn't asking for it. Like, there's different, like, comfort items that we can bring into play. Well, he went back to his mother. I had completely broken him of the pacifier. He went back to his mother, and when he came back, he had this thing, and it was a plush toy. I was like, oh, cool, like a monkey toy. And he, like, holds it up and sticks it in his mouth. It has a pacifier on the end of it. And I was like, what is this? And she's like, it's called a wubba nub. And I'm like, damn, I guess I didn't. But that's a communication, too. I need to communicate that I had broken him. I think that probably didn't happen. So I'm not completely innocent in this. So, you know, yeah, the differences in parenting are difficult to get around, because there are some things that I think are, like, okay to, like, do and say that his mom is, like, I personally feel like she can get kind of more restrictive than is necessary from time to time. But I also realize, being not the primary custodian, that I need to kind of change some of the my parenting style to some extent to mirror hers more closely.
Wow, that's huge.
But it needs to be a balance of what I'm trying to put, you know, what I'm trying to teach him, it comes from both sides, you know? You have to take in all this information. I mean, before 5, they're taking in a lot. Like, even just, like we talked about already, how to interact with people. That seems so simple. But it's like having a casual interaction with someone can sometimes be challenging for a little kid. They could, you know, get shy, a little awkward, you know, maybe upset or be saying things that they shouldn't say, all that stuff. So it seems like nothing to us, but I have to constantly remind myself, Garrett, he is 3 years old. Like, it's okay. So, it's communication is massive to make sure that the parenting techniques both mesh well together and you guys can agree on some certain things, right? So, that's my biggest thing, is just making sure that he's not getting two different, like, coaching styles. Well, like, maybe not reprimanded for certain things that that she would hear. So, like, he expects to sometimes be able to do it when he goes back. Well, then that's communicated to me. It's like, okay, well, I know that's off the table. Or if I think it's something that, like, is fine, I just, you know, you just explain it. And it's an open table of conversation. Or, well, what I want it to be, it's not as, like, open dialogue as I would personally like it to be. But with every co-parenting relationship, like, that is something that is constantly worked on. I know that she wants him to have the best life, and in order for him to, like, achieve that and the best quality of life, like, he sees our interactions, like, person to person. Mm-hmm. And at some point, he's going to start to recognize, like, even the way over the phone and stuff, like, that I'm feeling. Like, he is going to be able to start picking up on social cues and stuff and be like, huh, that was maybe somewhat, like, negative, or that was positive.
Right,
like, mom and dad
can vibrate.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's going to start being able to sense all that stuff at some point. So it's very carefully, like, building that and trying to make the dialogue as open as you can, and just trust that the person 831 miles away from you is reciprocating what you're doing with your child, and the things and allowances that you're making on either side of that co-parenting relationship for one another, just your co-parenting relationship, not even just for Griffin. Because if we work together better, and we can make it work from, like, 12 hours away, there's going to be no reason why down the road, if he has kids, like, they can't be like, yo, my mom and dad made this work, and they were, you know, and that was good. And he needs to have that, like, example of what that's like. So,
like, no matter what, you know.
Yeah, and one thing that I tried to make sure I really, like, drove home with his mom is, like, at the root of all of this, like, parenting stuff, love, like, is always there. Like, understand that when I'm reprimanding you, it's because I know you didn't know better, and I'm trying to educate you, and it's coming from a place of pure, like, love, so we know better next time, you know, like, not to do those things. It's I'm doing all this for you because I love you, and saying that often and making sure he's validated in his feelings and emotions, and is comfortable with all of that stuff, because it is important to, like, feel all the emotions. You know, you gotta cry sometimes. You know, you gotta,
especially as a young man with
and
all
it's
these
okay to not,
different kinds of.
No, man. Yeah, it's kind of insane, because there's, like, so many people with so many different viewpoints, and some people, like, suppress feelings and stuff. It's like, you know what?
Go
just feel like it's cool.
Be free.
Yeah. So
let me know how you feel.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, who knows what's the right or wrong way? I'm not sure. I'm not a parent myself yet. So, but I have recognized that, a lot of people, even myself, like, having parents who were very strict when I was younger, and then for some odd reason they're completely different with
Just kind of loosened
grandkids.
up.
Yeah.
Yo, oh, dude, that conversation. Oh my goodness, from your parents and you to the way they interact with their grandparents, you're like,
what?
Damn, sometimes you're like, oh man, like that's crazy.
You're not the same person.
No, you're so different.
But yeah. So, do you have any last tips for these lovebirds?
Okay, so for me personally, I want to. It's not so much a tip, but maybe like a practice that I use, and also I want to let them know the greatest gift that I have received from like parenting, right? So like for real was in a weird spot in life when I found out that Griffin's mother was pregnant, and that happened, and I was like, okay, like something's got to change. Like I gotta get out of whatever like hole I'm in right now. We gotta make something happen, So because now I have another human to be responsible for. But like once he was born, and the interactions started happening, I started watching him learn. The biggest gift for me through all of it is this unconditional, like most pure form of love that I have ever felt in my entire life. It is insane. And like you have a love between you and your parents, but like trust me, when your parents say I love you more, dude, they are not playing. Like absolutely. Like I would drive twice as far if it meant I got to spend time with my son, because I know that like no matter how I'm doing back here, I'm far away, right? So I have my own like things that are happening, maybe problems and stuff. When he comes, I'm just like filled, like to the brim, like overflowing sometimes, with this like unconditional love that I am now able to give to people around me if they like need some of that, because like people need that sometimes. They need someone to like be there for them, and to like maybe like helping guiding them through a certain situation if they have personal experiences that are related to whatever they're coming to them with. So it's very important for me to stress like it sounds cliche, like you really don't know until it happens, but like that's so real that you don't know the most pure form of love like that there has ever been until there's a piece of you like in front of you and you're watching it like learn. It's like, dude, that's so cool. Like even you learned how to do bodily functions. He's potty trained. Griffin's potty trained. Like, wow, that's great. Like we just do it. They're doing it. It's like, but it's like, let's have a party type stuff. So all this stuff, just watching a little human develop, like all his accomplishments and stuff, like I'm like, yeah, dude. And it just makes me feel that like love. Like he's trying because he knows like Dad like wants this to happen this way, and this is the way to do it because Dad says so, and so a practice that I use in parenting is at least once a visit, because I do this for myself. I write down things that I'm grateful for, but I also take while he's here, and I will write down a list of things that he's done, maybe even just that day, that I'm proud that he was like doing those things, or like acted a certain way towards someone. Like you did really well if we go somewhere to do something and he's really good like the whole time. Like I let him know, like, and I literally sit down with him and I'm like, these are the reasons like I'm really proud of you and I love you like so much, and like I know he feels that because I love you, Daddy, and then that goodnight kiss, and it's important for me to make sure I let him know that gratitude is really important, even if I'm just like validating him. It's validating the good things and not like trying to focus too much on all the bad stuff that had happened that day. Just be like, I'm proud of you because you did this, and reinforce the good stuff that happened, and not so much like pounding down all the and like pushing it down their throat, like, oh, you did this today and that today and this today and that today. It's like they can feel all that, like, and they feel some type of way after you kind of like punch a kid down, you know. They feel that. So just making sure, like, reinforcing good behaviors and expressing gratitude to him as a dad that he did those things. And those are the reasons, like, all of those reasons and so many more that I told him before are the reasons that, like, I love you so much, because you're doing so well with this stuff.
Right.
You know? So not focusing so much on the bad stuff and reinforcing that through those little lists, at least once a time. And he lights up every time. So it's all worth it. It's great.
Man, that was fire, man. I really hope there are some, you know, parents out there who take a lot from this, because I learned a lot, and I'm not even a parent. Like, you got me excited to, you know, like you said, have a little one running around, and I'm like, all right, let's celebrate, man. You know?
Right.
But yes, Lovebirds, thank you as always for listening. This has been a pleasure to have Garrett on. Thank you so much for coming, man.
Dude, thank you for inviting me. It finally happened, so we got it done. That's cool.
Yeah, and I hope that you are willing to come on again.
Oh, absolutely. Let's figure something else out that we can get rocking and rolling. I'm definitely down. You already know, man.
All right. Lovebirds, as always, stay blessed, not stressed.